Well, Charlie Redmond, we're here at the Aaron's ILG club. We've got a couple of your fans in the background there, and the first thing they said to you is, "You were that lad. You didn't get off the pitch that time you were sent off." That's my best attempt at the young lads' accent. Sorry, lads, if that was bad, but I'd say you're reminded of that a wee bit.
Yeah, I was actually even this morning, and I was in work. One of the girls in there, referred to it, and she wouldn't be a person who actually knows much about sport, I think, but she says, "Oh yeah, I watched that on television, I remember it well," so even to this day I'm still can't get away from
it. It must bring back even All-Ireland final build-up week, especially when the Dubs are in it. It must remind you of that week, even before '95, that final, like the nerves, I suppose. Am I right in saying you pulled a thigh muscle or something in practicing freeze in the build-up to it?
Yeah, I actually pulled it out here in the goal down the end behind me, just finishing up our normal session with Wayne McCarthy, and a 14-yard free, kicking it over the bar, just finishing off, and just felt it go, and immediately rang Pat O'Neill, told him doing something. He said, "Come down tonight." I went down that night, and we didn't train, and I went out training then on the Saturday afternoon, and I knew I was in a lot of trouble. I couldn't run, I couldn't kick the ball, so I knew this was going to be a close call. And all Sunday morning of the game I was getting treatment over in Castleknock to try and make sure I was able to play, and thankfully I was able to play. I was able to get the goal, and we won the game, and that's all that counts really. What happened in between the goal and the presentation doesn't really matter.
Yeah, nothing else happened, I don't think, famously. Do you talk to Paddy Russell, or do you see him have you seen him about since?
Of course I have, yeah. We've seen him on a few occasions, and I've forgiven him.
Exactly, not the other way around, to be fair. Fergal Logan, of course, you probably see him as well as Tyrone manager now. He's out and about. That I guess that injury, even in the days leading up to it, they talk about sports psychology now, and Caroline Curd, of course, the work she's doing at the Limerick Hurlers. But Pat O'Neill, like I had read somewhere that even the way he dealt with you in the days leading up, he was telling you he was going to give you an injection and all these little white lies, maybe to psychologically keep you prepared.
He did, yeah. He told me on the Thursday. He says, "Don't worry about it. We'll give you an injection. It'll sort it out." He'd never any intention of giving me an injection, because Pat never injected anyone to play a game of football. He said, if you're able to play, you're able to play. If you're not able to play, you're not able to play. And he wasn't going to make any interventions that going to allow you to play. But he intervened with my mind, and he told me he was going to give me, and I'm all ready to go. And about 25 minutes before we got to the field, I said, "Pat, now I'm ready for the injection." And even there is no injection. You were never getting an injection. I just did it to take it off your mind. So it worked. Yeah, it worked. It wasn't what I expected, but it worked.
It did the business. It's similar to even Shane O'Donnell, the Clare hurler back in 2013. I think he wasn't told by Davy Fitz that he was starting until maybe the morning. So it's all these little things. Maybe as a footballer, you need to. A manager knows how to deal with certain personalities.
Yeah. And I remember an incident with Pat. I think it was about 93 or 94, and I think it was Paul O'Neill from Fingallions. He ended up playing against me. I think it was the Leinster semi-final, Leinster final, and got man of the match. But he wasn't told to literally the national anthem, I think, that he was playing. It was that late, you're in, and it was the way it was in those days. That was the way to do it and the way to deal with it. A bit like now, you always name the team that started the last matches as starting this game, but you know yourself, it's not going to be the team that starts.
Yeah, exactly. There's always the 3 or 4, I guess, shadow moves in advance of throw-in. Like that, those celebrations after '95. Like, what do you remember of that week and days after? Because I'm sure it's something. And then I guess nobody expected the gap would be 16 years until 2011, but I'm sure you still partied.
Yeah, we did. We really did. I remember one of the great sort of memories I have was the next day when we had the reception there in Dame Street in the Bank of Ireland, and we'd gone in there, and we were introduced on stage, and you could see a little bit up Nassau Street and down Dame Street and around College Green, and there was a right few people there. But they put us on a bus and they brought us around Andelier Street, or Westmoreland, I should say, and we could see the crowd all the way up O'Connell Street, and it was just, we just were taken aback by it, and it was a huge thing for us, because we hadn't won the All Ireland. We had lost two finals before that in '92 and '94, and for this to go ahead in '95 it was an incredible experience for us all.
I think I'm right in saying this is the first All-Ireland since Brian Mullins passed away. I think it was last October maybe Brian died, but I remember that story of you coming into the Dublin dressing room, I guess first probably in the early 80s at some point, and the likes of Brian, I'm sure, had arms over the shoulder with the younger players like yourself. Like what influence would the likes of Brian have had on your career in those early, I guess, inter-county days at senior level?
Yeah, when you go into a dressing room when you're playing with the likes of Brian Mullins and Tommy Drum and Anthony O'Toole, and you've watched these guys when you were sort of 12 years of age contesting All Ireland finals, and now suddenly you're in the same dressing room. It's quite a sort of jaw-dropping experience and a little bit of a sort of starstruck, if you want of a better term. But every one of them, to a man, were just so down to earth. Now, Brian is Brian. Brian had his own way of dealing with things, and we had some funny. I think it was the first time I went onto the field with to training, and he says to me, "Who are you?" And I knew he knew who I was because I'd heard him talking about me in the other dressing room. And I went, "I'm Charlie Redmond." He says, "Who are you?" And he looked at me and he swung a boot at me. You know, you little gitchy, you know. And but that was Brian. He was always fun to the last. He was a great character we sorely miss. And I'm sure in the lead up to the game on Sunday, his name will be mentioned in the dressing room, because it's the first All Ireland we've been in since his passing, and I'm sure Brian is up there with Kevin and with Anton, and they're looking down on us now, and they'll be cheering. And I'm sure the Kerry boys have their own idols up there who are looking down, but yeah, they'll be looking down on Sunday, cheering on the Dubs.
I think there was one piece of advice, I don't know if I think it might have been towards yourself, from Brian Mullins, and he was talking about the fact that, you know, if you're out of a game and you're not heavily involved in a match, maybe get involved in a skirmish or throw a few words or something. Just get yourself involved.
Yeah. His actual said was, if you feel the game has passed you by, get booked. Now, in those days, getting booked was quite hard, and getting sent off was nigh on impossible.
As you well know.
Yeah, but nowadays, it wouldn't be the advice you'd be given to any young lad nowadays. The game is a lot more sanitised than it was in our day. It's a lot cleaner, it's a little bit faster. Probably not as good a game or as exciting a game at times. But hopefully on Sunday we're going to see two teams who play football the way football should be played, and I think we've all the ingredients and that are there to have a cracker of a game.
The fact that it is Kerry makes it all the more special. And like, even speaking of Brian, I think he was one of the only players to have lost maybe 5 All Irelands to the same county, like 74, 78, 79, you've 84 and 85 all to Kerry. I mean, exactly. So, there must have been, like, even you growing up, like that rivalry with Kerry was just the stuff of legend. It was,
and I started playing for Dublin in 1981, and I finished in 1987. However, I only got to play against Kerry once in the championship game, and that was in the 85 final. And that didn't go so well. I got injured in the game and had to come off and I separated my shoulder in the 20th minute or something. But Kerry went away then for the rest of the time I was there. But for that period, we sort of had a lull in the war, but the war is truly back on now since about 2008 and 2009 when Kerry were stuffing us. But I think we're getting our back on them now, and we're sort of even up the game a little bit. And we saw last year, like in the game in the semi-final, what a tremendous game of football it was, and it took a moment of magic from Sean O'Shea, unfortunately, to win it. But hopefully on Sunday, like a moment of magic also.
Almost mirrored that of Stephen Cluxton, the Cluxton moment of 2011, the Shawnee moment last year. It must be special for you as well, seeing Desi Farrell doing what he's doing. You know, to have a teammate leading the county team and to success as well, because following Jim Gavin was hardly an easy task for whoever was going to take that mantle over.
It is, yeah. Like, I mean, and Jim came in after Pac Ilroy, I saw, that got us back up to Steps of Crow Park in 2011. So, yeah, the team in '95 sort of well represented and all the way through, and those last 3 All Irelands, and Desi's there now, and he's done a great job. He's got 1 All Ireland under his belt in the 6 in a row, and all the last 2 years that we haven't been in the All Ireland final, I'm sure he's looking back to getting to it on Sunday, and he has all the experience he needs, both with Mick Galvin beside him and other guys who have been there with Jim and with Pat. So for experience wise, we're well sorted there. But to be honest with you, it doesn't matter who the manager is on Sunday. It's about the players. The players are going to decide who wins and who loses the game. Yes, the managers may have an influence on it and the way they come in, but ultimately it'll be the players who decide it.
How have Dublin impressed you so far this year? 'Cause it's funny, between Dublin and Kerry, we probably haven't seen either of them at maybe the peak of their powers, or what we expect is the peak. But some players like Bugler and Costello have really stood up, and the usual heads as well, I suppose, Fenton and McCarthy and these lads. And Stephen Cluxton, of course, back in the panel as he snuck back in there without any of us finding out. But how have Dublin fared so far this year, performance-wise, I guess, in your view?
I think they've sort of been simmering. I think the only time they sort of got as close to the boil was in the second half performance against Mayo, which was awesome. And I think they're going to need that and more if they're going to overcome this Kerry team at the weekend. I think whatever team wins has to give the best performance of the year. I think Kerry also are similar. I don't think they've actually reached the heights that they can achieve. Now, they were very close to going out against Derry. I think Derry's performance on the day and the tactics really surprised Kerry, and it took them a while to get to the game, but they eventually did. They showed the experience and they showed the talent that they have, and that shone through at the end, and they're there in the All-Ireland final against us on Sunday. And we probably weren't at our best against Monaghan. We probably didn't need to be at our best against Monaghan, but we got the job done, and on Sunday it'll be the same way. Just get the job done. Winning is all that's important. The performance isn't important. It's winning and losing, but I think to win you're going to have to put in a performance.
Where does David Clifford rank and it's a difficult question across generations, but in terms of the greatest Gaelic footballers we've ever seen, he's certainly up there.
He certainly is. Like the level of performance that he's churning out nearly every game is remarkable, and to do it with someone who's so young is astounding. I had heard about him about 5 or 6 years ago. I was hearing there was somebody, Pat Spillane actually told me there's a guy coming that's going to take the world. And I said, come on, Pat, look, I mean, he's 17 years of age, he's got to go through minor, and he's got to go through this, and literally within 18 months of Pat telling me he was on the telly scoring goals against Monaghan up in Championship, and he's phenomenal, there's no doubt about it. And whoever gets the opportunity, if I want a better word, to mark him on Sunday, they know they're going to have their hands. I mean, he's going to score, there's no doubt about that, he's going to score. It's how much he scores. It's not up to just the one person who's marking him to curtail him from scoring. It's up to the guys out the field to stop the quality of ball going into him and to completely eradicate it if possible. But it's not that Kerry are by no means a one-man team. Yes, he is an exceptional player, but they've great players elsewhere there. Like, I mean, Gavin White at wing back has really impressed me this season. He's rampaging forward, and I think Stephen O'Brien is a guy who really looked like that over the years. Probably hasn't gone a bit quiet the last couple of years. I was glad to see when he came on against Derry, he made a huge impact in the game, and of course we spoke with Shawnee O'Shea as well. So I mean, there's players all over the park there that can win the games for them. So they're by no means a one-trick pony. And Dublin will have to have a game plan that curtails all their players, not just one.
People often talk about the Dublin age profile this year seems to be one thing flung at them maybe, but then again on All Ireland final day, when you have even just the Garda escort to Croke Park, you have the parade, the Dublin players are well used to it, but when you have experienced lads like Fenton and McCarthy and Cluxton, even Jack McCaffrey, I don't know if he'll start, and Paul Mannion, these lads have that experience on All Ireland final day, presumably is a huge advantage.
Of course it is, there's no doubt it has to be an advantage to them, but at the same time, how much of an advantage is it going to be? Because you're going against a team who just won the All-Ireland last year, who have been, they've been planning for this. They brought a manager back from Kildare just for this purpose, and this purpose only to beat Dublin in All-Ireland finals, and which is something they haven't done since 1985, and hopefully that record will continue on Sunday. But they're there for a reason, and experience. Yeah, it's going to be invaluable, but it has to be put into scores on the field. It has to be put on over the bar, and ultimately that's what's going to decide the game. As I said before, they're big players on both teams. We have loads of players who have played in big games. We've 3 lads going for 9 medals. Never been done before in Gaelic football. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. And
it often, as you say, comes down to one moment, as it did in '95. Like that goal, are you reminded of it often? Do you think about it often? Like I know that you had the thigh injury as well. I'm sure that didn't help sliding down to score a goal like that. But is it a moment that pops into your head every now and again, especially this time of year, I suppose?
Not really. I have to say, not really. I don't miss playing Gaelic football until we come to the weeks of All Ireland final, and then you say, yeah, I wish I'd like to be playing, and I wish I was fit and strong and young again. But the rest of it, no, I can do without. But no, listen, we had our time. It was great. It was enjoyable. I'm not really heavily involved in football anymore. Enjoying my time away from it. It is what it is. I love the game. I love Dublin. I love these games against Kerry. I love big matches in Croke Park with big crowds. I love the atmosphere, the surrounding. I love Dublin City on the day of an All-Ireland final. It's something to behold, and but do I miss it? Not particularly. That's
fair. That's very fair. When you've given so much of your life to it, I suppose. Charlie, finally, your prediction. And I know it's often when your county's involved, it's tough to ask people, but how do you see the game playing out?
I see it being a great game. I think if we can get a good weather on the day, I think we have the 2 best teams in Ireland playing football in Croke Park on All-Ireland final day, and what more can you want? I think we just might have a little bit too much in our forward line to for them to cope with. As I said, they're not a one-trick pony by any means. They have good quality players. I just think we have more quality players. But having them and winning the game are two different things, and it's ever going to be whoever gives those big performances, those driving runs in the second half, late in the second half, who can keep going to the end, who they can introduce off the bench, and how much the bench can offer. I just think we have a little bit more than them in every department.
Well, listen, enjoy the match as best you can, and best luck to Dubs.
Absolutely, up to Dubs.